What happened to Jeremy Bright? Jeremy Doland Bright disappeared on August 14, 1986. Each August, the Coos County Fair rolls into Myrtle Point, Oregon. For many, it's a week-long celebration. To 14-year-old Jeremy Bright and his close friend Johnny, it was one of the high points of the year. Normally, Jeremy lived 100 miles away in Grants Pass, where his mother worked, but during the week of the fair, he and his younger sister stayed with their stepfather in Myrtle Point. On Thursday, Jeremy and Johnny enjoyed the festivities at the fair. Around 4:45 that same afternoon, Jeremy made a long-distance call to his mother, Diane. He told her he was having a great time at the fair. She told Jeremy she'd be back in Myrtle Point in 2 days to pick him up. 5 hours later, at 9:40 p.m., Jeremy showed up at a local tavern owned by his grandmother. There, he met his stepfather and asked to borrow some money. It was the last time Jeremy was ever seen by his family. 2 days later, Diane arrived in Myrtle Point as planned. She went to pick up Jeremy at his stepfather's house, but her son never showed up. On Saturday night, Diane was worried enough to contact the police. At first, Sergeant Steve Dalton of the Coos County Sheriff's Department believed Jeremy had simply run away. Numerous theories and rumors circulated in Myrtle Point following the boy's disappearance, which were detailed in a 1989 segment on NBC's Unsolved Mysteries. According to one rumor, Jeremy attended one of the Myrtle Point's many parties and drank a beer laced with a powerful drug. Another story claimed that 3 older teenagers showed up at a local swimming hole and harassed Jeremy and his friends. According to Sergeant Dalton, this information came from a jailhouse informant. The informant was quoted as saying, "They subsequently took him to a cabin maybe within 10 miles of the Myrtle Point area and attempted to nurse him back to health. He died as a result of that injury, either from loss of blood or from infection or what have you." That same source indicated that his body would be found within 200 feet of this cabin in a shallow grave. Police searched the area surrounding the cabin but found nothing. Then authorities talked to Johnny's sister, Cecilia. She said that on the day after Jeremy vanished between midnight and 1 a.m., she and a friend were leaving her sister's apartment when they ran into a neighborhood teen with blood all over his clothes. Shocked, they asked what happened, and he responded, "This happened hours ago." He then laughed and went into another apartment. Half hour later, Johnny arrived at his other sister's apartment. He was shaking and terrified of something, but refused to say what had happened. For Diane Bright, the rumors about her missing son were difficult to handle. She says here, "All of them are hard to think about. Every time I'd hear a new one, I have nightmares for a week or so. The one that I hope is not what happened is the one where he suffered for 2 weeks before he died and they buried his body, because the thought of him suffering for 2 weeks just makes me sick." The case remains unsolved. Several people who are believed to have information on Jeremy's fate have since died. His former babysitter, Terry Steinhoff, died of a drug overdose in prison in 2007 while serving time for the unrelated murder of a Coos Bay woman. Around 1988, 4 of his friends died together in a car accident, and his friend Johnny died in January 2011. His stepfather, Ollie, died in 2003 at age 66. His maternal grandmother died in December 1988. His father, Joe Flaherty, died in December 2008. Police consider Terry Steinhoff and his cousin David persons of interest in this case. According to some accounts, Jeremy was last seen alive sitting in a vehicle with Terry. David was the man seen covered in blood shortly after Jeremy's disappearance. Before his death, police tried to interview Terry about this case, but he was not forthcoming. Investigators searched property owned by the Steinhoffs but found no trace of Jeremy. Diane thinks his remains are located somewhere in Coos County. Here's an age progression photo of what Jeremy might look like today. Jeremy's family believes he's dead, and they held a memorial service for him in August 2011 on the 25th anniversary of his disappearance. Jeremy Bright has scars on his forehead and nose and a mole on his chin. Prime suspect in his disappearance recently died in prison, and there are no new leads. However, the case is still open. As it stands now, we might never know what actually happened to Jeremy Bright.